Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Future Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Juliette Lamar, and joining us today is James Condon. He is the Director of Threat Research and Analysis at ProtectWise, Inc. Welcome, James.
Hi, it's great to be here.
We're so excited to have you. I always like when I can get into security and all of that jazz with dealing with companies because it's so interesting and also a little scary. So why don't you give us an overview about ProtectWise and what it is you guys do over there?
Yeah, for sure. So let me give you a quick little background on myself. My name's James Condon. Actually grew up out here in Colorado. Went to Colorado School of Mines, studied computer science out here in Golden. I was on an Air Force ROTC scholarship, and that's kind of where my career in cybersecurity started. I joined the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and there I was a computer crime investigator and kind of focused on two main things. One was preparing digital evidence for criminal trial, and the other was investigating network breaches. So we would kind of investigate those. We would provide intelligence on what the attackers were doing, things like that. Following there, I went to Mandiant. A lot of my colleagues from OSI went there. Specifically, I focused on doing network traffic analysis for incident response engagements, as well as our managed service customers. I spent a little bit of time working on the threat intel side too, and then that brought me to ProtectWise about 4 years ago. Originally, heard the idea of doing a full PCAP solution in the cloud with threat detection, and that really blew my mind. So to give you a little bit of a background on ProtectWise, ProtectWise was founded in 2013, and in 2015 we introduced our platform, the ProtectWise Grid. So ProtectWise was really based on the fundamental belief that there needs to be a new approach to how enterprises acquire, manage, and operate security. We felt that the current model was insufficient for today's threat landscapes. Attacks happen over long periods of time. Solutions are fragmented point products. And on top of that, there's this major talent shortage for people to actually operate and understand how to use these products. So we ended up designing the ProtectWise Grid to evolve network security to a more modern state that organizations needed. And that's one that's cloud-delivered network detection response platform, or as we call it, NDR. Today, we have customers in the Global 200, virtually every industry: media, entertainment, finance, healthcare, oil and gas, technology, and government. So that's a little bit about ProtectWise.
That's a great overview, and it's giving us a great platform to start with. So with ProtectWise, I guess let's get into first. What is your approach to helping companies do this? So I know you've got coverage, detection, and forensics. Can you go into a little bit about how it all is going to work if you have ProtectWise with your company?
Yeah, definitely. So our approach is we can provide network visibility via the deployment of these lightweight software sensors. So we don't have appliances that can be difficult to install and difficult to get into the places that you need to go. So we develop these lightweight sensors, and essentially what they do is they profile your network's traffic, so we get an idea of what we're dealing with, and then we work with you to come up with a capture policy to determine what data you're going to send back. So we send back a enriched net flow of every conversation that we see. That includes, information such as the IP addresses involved, the data transfer, the protocols used, and some other forensic artifacts. We also give you the ability to do full packet capture, and that becomes really interesting in an incident response and forensic scenario. And since you don't want to do full capture on, every protocol, for example, you don't want to capture every packet for YouTube or something like that, we provide that flexibility to determine what you want to send and what you don't. And then once you ship off all this data, it goes into our platform for long-term storage. So this long-term storage achieves a couple of things for us. One, it gives you the ability to go back in time and answer questions about forensics. And it also gives us the ability to do threat detection on a rich data set. Additionally, with the type of sensors that we've developed, we can not only get into traditional enterprise networks, but we can also get into ICS networks and cloud networks as well.
And what are, you named a couple of things that potentially are different than other companies, but what really sets ProtectWise apart from other companies who are doing a similar service?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that really set us apart. One is that our network storage retention is completely scalable, so you can essentially store however much data that you want for whatever time period that you want, whether that's months or years. There's no need to set up appliances on site and do some sort of data center on site. Since this is all cloud powered, we take care of all that for you. So that's a big differentiator. Another one is with all this data and using cloud technology, we can break apart what we see from a threat detection side and essentially generate a bunch of noise that we use internally to start to correlate and distill down into some discrete, reliable threat detection indicators. So reliable threat detection from that is another big differentiator. And then on top of that, we've been working hard to innovate the presentation layer, how analysts interact with the data. There's a lot of room for improvement there in the industry. And one of the ways we want to help solve this talent gap is by attracting younger people with interfaces that may be more intuitive to them.
And I guess how does this platform work? So if people want to implement this into their company, what are the steps to do that?
Yeah. So first step is we provision these software sensors. So we don't charge for these. These are free. You could put however many sensors make sense on your network. Essentially deploy these sensors out. So in a typical enterprise network, the way that this would look is you would set up a span or tap somewhere on our egress. That's usually one of the first places that we start. Spin up this software sensor, runs on Linux platforms, and then that sensor will automatically call back to our cloud platform and start giving us a bunch of statistics on what we're seeing, how much bandwidth we have, what the protocol makeup is, et cetera. And then from there, we can help tune based on what we expect as far as data that's going to go back and get up and running right away. So you can really expect to see within a few hours shipping data to our platform and being able to pull that down and interact with any sort of threat detections that occur on it.
So moving into the people that we're protecting ourselves from, how has cybercrime really, has it been changing over these past few years, or is it really the same kind of attacks, just in slightly different ways?
Yeah, so it's definitely always evolving. I tend to think of threat landscape in multiple different parts. And probably the two biggest ones that people generally hear about is, there's a criminal part, and then there's the advanced persistent threat part. And so the criminal part tends to deal with, threats to, individual users, usually, financial gain. These are the type of malware that's used to, get your banking information, hold your computer ransom, try and make some money. And that tends to be stuff that's, less specifically targeted and more widespread. And those are the things that users kind of interact. And I think every year we kind of see different trends that go. And as new technologies come out, there's new attack surfaces that can be utilized. And then the next big one is what I was talking about, is the APT threats. These tend to be, kind of espionage or intellectual property theft oriented. And this one's always kind of been around for a while, but it's always going to be kind of shifting based on what the attackers' overarching goals are, what changes there are in the political and economic conditions that they're operating in. So yeah, it's always evolving.
And in your mind, what are some of the biggest mistakes that companies make when protecting themselves from this type of attack?
Yeah, as far as you know, biggest mistakes, it's kind of hard to say. A lot of times you have to really kind of step back and look at the bigger picture and
Hmm.
look at your business objectives, and then look at where you have the biggest areas of risk, and then kind of build a strategy around that. It can be kind of easy to jump into the deep end and say, okay, we just need product A or B, because that's kind of the silver bullet, and then all of our answers are going to be solved magically. I think that when you take a step back and you look at, how are we going to address these risks? How are we going to get visibility first and foremost into what those risks are, and then kind of come up with a plan there. That's where I kind of see that happen a lot.
Definitely. And just so being more aware of the bigger picture would be one of your tips to people
Yeah.
in this space. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely being aware of the bigger picture, and figuring out, what are kind of your crown jewels, what's most important to you to protect, and ultimately the data that you're collecting and storing, what value does that provide, and do you have enough of that to effectively respond, when your assets are threatened?
And ProtectWise, you've been around for a little while, and you're used by a lot of pretty big name customers. You've got, I'm looking at your website here. You've got the Major League Baseball. You got Netflix, Hulu, Mary Health, MGM. You don't get these companies, Fox Entertainment Group. You don't get these companies coming to you without you having a really solid product.
Mhm. Yeah, I think.
And yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think a lot of times people like this are very interested in the innovation that's occurring, and the new things, the new ways of thinking about security.
And with that, what are some of the things that you plan to implement in the future for ProtectWise?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of different things. Specifically on the threat detection side, I'm working on a number of different areas. One is continuing to iterate on how to do threat detection on encrypted traffic. So you've probably heard a lot in the news that people are adopting SSL, TLS, much more year over year. Attackers are using it more and more. So that's one of the big areas that we're continuing to iterate on, is how we can do threat detection well on encrypted traffic without needing to decrypt it. Some of the other things that we're doing is enhancing users' abilities to bring in their own threat intelligence and apply it to our platform, making that easier for them. We're also working on expanding what we can do with extracted files and how we analyze those. Our data science team is working specifically on anomaly detection use cases and how those relate to detecting time series anomalies. So establishing a baseline on your network, for a given host or a given part of traffic, and looking for those deviations and seeing if those deviations, map to something malicious. The other thing is, since we are a security platform, we're continuing to build out the different integrations that we have. So, network visibility is part of your security strategy. So is endpoint visibility, things like that. So we want to be able to operate with all those other products that you have, and use those together to kind of fuse a better picture of what's happening.
Oh, that's fantastic. And really having that forethought is going to keep you ahead of the curve when dealing with security and dealing with these people who are having these crimes. This is their only job. Their only job is to go and to hack into your system or to steal your funds. That's their only job. And with the companies, that's their security is just one little part of their job. They have to run a company as well. So it's wonderful that you are offering a service that is trusted and is kind of thinking ahead of the curve when it comes to these criminals.
Yeah, definitely.
So if a company would like to implement your service, how do they get started? Can they do a little test drive or demo before fully jumping in?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a couple different routes. We have a traditional route where you can talk with our people. We can walk through demos, and then initiate a proof of value trial period for you. We also have some self-guided test drives that people can do. So There's an area on our website where people can sign up, and then get a way to authenticate, and they can operate in one of our demo environments that we've preloaded with the threat team. A bunch of data from real-world attacks that we typically see with walkthroughs on how to respond to those, how to conduct forensics. That can all be self-guided, so the user can kind of run with it on their own and then follow up if they want to actually do a trial on their network.
Oh, that is fantastic. And if people want to follow your adventures, if they want to see what you're doing with by closing the crypto security talent gap, what's the best way to connect and to keep in touch with your company?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. Definitely our website, ProtectWise.com. There's a number of ways that we can connect there, and we share a number of our insights about our product and what we're doing. And then additionally, my team, ProtectWise 401 Threat Research Group, we have our own blog. It's 401trg.com. And on this blog, this is where we share actionable information for the rest of the community. So this is threat intelligence. This is things we've seen through incident response. It's also analyst tips and tricks, and knowledge base articles, kind of like that. There's contact information that people can contact us about anything at any time. We're also on Twitter at 401trg. And at ProtectWise, that's another avenue people can contact us as well.
That is fantastic. Well, James, thank you so much for joining us here today on Future Tech Podcast and giving us a little insight into ProtectWise, what you do, and how you can help a lot of companies in their journey to being more secure.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
That is James Condon. He is the Director of Threat Research and Analysis at ProtectWise, Inc. You can check them out, like he mentioned, at ProtectWise.com. This has been Juliet Lamar for Future Tech Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.